Okay. Hello to a nice lunch talk for me. I just thought I'd use the time, and it's just so much fun to talk about these topics. And I love to help other people on this treacherous trail towards agility. I've made so many mistakes along the way in the about 20 years that I've been doing this that I can spare you some of them. That's what I'm always thinking. So, great to be here again. Great if you are here again. Again, use the comments, the chat to get in touch. And I kind of have to find now where I can open it so that I can see it. Yes, so it's open now. And this... Hello, hey, hi Sarah. This time it's I want to talk about agility and complexity versus simplicity, because both terms appear quite frequently in agility, and they are kind of opposites, right? So something that's complex is not simple, and something that's simple is not complex. And this stream today and the topic has been kind of sparked by a Harvard Business School article I saw and something I listened to about deliberately introducing friction in a system or in an organization to make it better. So and I see that somehow the camera, now that I'm not doing audio anymore, I have to look right. So that this, let me quickly fix the camera here. It's even better. So the idea is that friction is not always bad. We think of friction as something bad, inefficiency, like bureaucracies, processes that get in the way. But friction doesn't always have to be bad. The authors compare that to like the bacteria in our guts. There are good ones and bad ones. And the good ones, we need them. They need to be there. We cannot just kill all of them. So we just have to know what's the good friction and the bad friction. And the thing is, when we talk about agility and complexity and simplicity, there is, and please help me with your experience on that, because I'm unsure whether I'm on the right track with that train of thought. There is one thought that says the more complex the system is, the more complex your solution has to be. Like the complexity of your solution has to at least match the complexity of the problem. Otherwise, you're not capable of controlling it. That's one train of thought, and it kind of makes sense. But then there's the idea of the more complex something is, if you add more complexity or a complex solution to that, does it really make things better? And then we have the opposite rule. We have the Da Vinci quote that simplicity is the ultimate satisfaction. And we have the Agile Manifesto that tells us simplicity, in this time in terms of work we do, like maximizing the amount of work not done. So simplicity clearly can help. And just that got me thinking about, is it good to make things more complex? Is it good to make things simpler? Or do we need both? And one thing that I see, and I talked to an organization yesterday, and I obviously every week I work with different organizations, mostly large ones, the global corporations, and they are very complex. I mean, the organization is complex, but their problem is also complex. Like they build complex products in a complex market environment. So basically for these corporations, it's always the global supply chain, the global supply network. It's everything. You see everything that happens in this world reflected in these global corporations. And so it's complex, and I can understand that the system they built, the hierarchy, the organizational structure, the processes, process structure, everything is very complex. I can understand that. Then I see that when they try to become agile, for example, these large corporations, they think they need something that matches that complexity they have. So they say we cannot go with simple solutions. We cannot just have Scrum teams, or even simpler, just go by, I don't know, Heart of Agile, or just by values. We need a complex solution. We need a scaling framework. And again, I can understand that. The thing is that when I look at successful agile companies, the big ones, they're usually not the ones who went through an agile transformation, but these are usually companies that started as an small agile company and then grew into a large agile company. That seems to be the only reliable way to be a large agile company. And if we look at these, they have very simple solutions to the complexity they face. If I think about a large hardware manufacturer, like combination of hardware and software, we have that like in medical, where we have MRI machines or some tech that we have to build. We have that in building transportation, like trains or cars. And it's a complex mix of software, hardware, different parts. And most companies I saw try to fix this with complex processes and complex hierarchies, team structures, and all that. So the challenge for them is to figure out how to organize teams, how to organize departments in a way to make it kind of efficient and effective, to keep the communication flowing while they try to still keep it efficient. And that's usually where a safe transformation comes in. Okay, safe, at least when you look at it, it looks like a complex solution to a complex problem. Although when you go deeper on safe, I think it's not actually complex. It just looks like that from the surface, and that's probably a flaw in safe, that it kind of looks like something else, something that it doesn't want to be, because the fundamental principles are very agile, most of them. So it's but you see that complex organizational structure mainly when you approach safe for the first time. And this is what most people then pick. They think it's a complex solution to a complex problem. And then I look at a company like Tesla, a car manufacturer also with all the complexities of the global supply network, of hardware and software, there's a lot going on. We could argue that's very complex, the environment they are in. So Tesla, as a car manufacturer, they do more than cars, but let's focus on the cars for now. How do they organize their teams? How do they do that? What complex solution do they use? Well, turns out they use a very simple solution. A courageous solution, but a simple solution. And that solution seems to be self-selection. Like, just let the people decide. As far as I know, there are no fixed teams. There might be a few, but usually on the factory floor, there are no fixed teams. You just come into the factory in the morning, you see what's going on, you see what's maybe needed, and you go there. And you do it with the people who also chose to go there and fix that particular problem. And then you achieve something, hopefully. on that day. You go home, and the next day is just you start again. Either you continue on that or you choose a different battle. That's arguably much easier than having a bunch of managers trying to figure out how to organize the teams and create organizational structures. Oh, I can tell you, I've been in so many meetings about organizational structures. How to set up our department, how to set up our teams, how to set up our art, Agile release train. It can take months for that. And nothing moves, obviously. No work is done. It's just the preparation phase. And with Tesla, they just let people choose every day. And there's obviously, to this simple solution, there's a natural agility to it, an adaptability. That if you worked on something yesterday that seemed important then, and today there is an emergency somewhere, it's needed, or there's an opportunity, you're just going to go there. That's it. It's very adaptable in its simplicity. And it needs little overhead in humans. It needs some overhead in technology. Because if you have thousands of people, how do these people know where they are needed and where their expertise would be best applied, and whether they are making progress towards a meaningful goal? So that's where the energy flows into with Tesla. Like, they have these giant screens, or just regular screens, but just a wall of screens that we usually know as information radiators. And they come into the factory, they see what's going on, they see the different parts, and they see the metrics. There are key metrics. As far as I know, there's basically 3 metrics that you try to improve on every part of the car. There is cost. Bring it down 1 cent today. That's it. You achieved something if you did that. Bring cost down 1 cent. Bring energy consumption down, or bring weight down, because that's important for electric vehicles, and then the range they have. So that's it. Like, just 3 metrics. You can choose to improve all 3, just 1 or 2 of them. But that's it. And that's just the information. Nobody tells you what to improve, what to do. Nobody makes a big plan how to improve that. It's the engineers who do that. And it's simple. They go in and they pick their battle, go there and do it. And that's, it's scaringly simple for some companies. So I think this is a simple solution to a complex problem. This is what we learn when we talk about agility. It's this simplicity. It's small teams. It's keep it simple. Create small user stories, something that you can finish in a day or 2. Pick small battles and make meaningful progress towards the big goal. Okay. For that, of course, you have to know the big goal. And that's another problem that big companies have, but that's for another day. So knowing your problem or your goal, that's it. And then you can actually go for simple solutions. Another case where I think you can see simple solutions for complex problems is if I compare, again, most of the global corporations I work with, most of them actually have a very complicated tool landscape. Okay, they have lots of software tools, different tools, usually a horribly complex SAP system that is partly customized and augmented. It's not as easy as pressing update on these things. Okay, it takes years sometimes to update that, because they have to figure out how they map it to the updated system, how to migrate the data, and it's always complex. And they assume that the complexity is necessary to deal with their complex challenges they have. admittedly, they build complex products. I'm working with companies who build very sophisticated and complex products. But this isn't an excuse, because there are also companies who build very complex and sophisticated products in a different way. Building electric cars is pretty complex. Building rockets is pretty complex. And it's not only building rockets, it's the SpaceX company is selling rights on these rockets. So they are not just selling the rockets, they are operating the rights, at least partially. And that's complex. Still, you can tackle that with simple solutions, also in the software, in the tool landscape. I wouldn't, yeah. It's also, if you look at, I had the question yesterday, how can we improve communication within the organization and to like outside stakeholders of the organization? How can we make that more fluent? Because there is kind of like a jungle of tools. And we would love to have one tool that does it all. But we know that this is a dream. There will not be an off-the-shelf solution that is just one software and that does it all for communication, for example. And we might get close, but usually it's we add one more channel to eliminate another channel. But in essence, we just add more channels, and then at some day we have 20 different channels and no one knows where to find something. Like, is it on the SharePoint server? Is it in the email inbox? Is it in the Confluence? Is it, I don't know, on a Miro board? Is it, I don't know. It could be anywhere. I have to search all these places, which makes it more inefficient, more complicated, more complex. Oh no, in that case, it's actually complicated. So you have to search all these places. It just takes time. And when you're done searching every place and you still haven't found the information, you are still unsure whether it's because the information is not there or because you didn't search correctly and you missed one of the 20 places where it could be. And in that case, I think about the primary software. I mean, Tesla has a set of apps that they also use in the factory. There's not just one, but there's a few. But the primary thing for communication or for doing things seems to be a messenger. Like iMessage, WhatsApp, or whatever. They don't use these for obvious reasons. They don't use WhatsApp. But it's basically a messenger which makes communication insanely simple. Again, with a few additions of technology. Because now, especially now with LLMs, ChatGPT, everyone knows that. If you add AI to the mix, if you add AI chatbots, and we had chatbots before, then you can actually kind of use a messenger app for many things. You could just, I don't know, if you want to request your vacation days, you can do that. Or if you want to start a machine on the factory floor, you could send a message on the messenger. If you need some number crunching, you could ask the messenger, especially nowadays with the LLMs that we have. Probably not with ChatGPT. It's too generic, but with your own trained AI, it's totally possible. And it makes management so much simpler because you don't need managers anymore for that. You don't need anyone who's crunching the numbers, secretly guarding them, not handing them to the employees, or kind of trying to divide people up into groups how they should work. So I think even Tesla today is not down to just one tool and one messenger. But the thing is, they seem to try to keep it simple as possible. There is a certain inherent complexity that we can never eliminate, and that's okay. Einstein said, make it as simple as possible, but no simpler. And I think most corporations, most organizations go in the opposite direction. They don't try to make it simpler. They try to make it more complex. And that leads to all kind of problems. And when they try to make it simpler, it's usually in a big bang thing where they try to wipe their whole slate clean and like get a new set of a new software tool in the hopes that this would now fix the problem. Throw out the old stuff, get in the new. It's one time with blood, sweat, and tears, and then we finally made it. And the fallacy here is that this is only a temporary solution. Always. We can predict the future, so we know the future of our organization will change. The markets will change, the technologies will change, the landscape will change, and how we are organized will change. Or it will have to change if we want to stay competitive. Okay. Then I can cite the justice rule. The Joe Justice rule is your organization and how you structure it should reflect how your product can be broken down into modules. And that it's kind of the inverse of help me with the name. The famous law that your product always looks like your organization. You can always see that in the product architecture and design. Sorry, I've totally drew a blank on the name right now. So your organization has to change in the future. And the agile way of approaching this problem would be to say, yes, keep it simple so that it can change every day in the future, every day from now, every week. It doesn't have to change radically, but it can adapt constantly. That's usually not what companies do. Also with the processes that are baked into the software solutions. When we talk about the tool landscape, usually they kind of at a certain point in time, they redesign their processes, they put them in the tools, they optimize them, and they often do a great job. But it gets old. Like this is the processes you kind of modeled in your SAP stuff or whatever software you use 5 years ago are most likely not the best processes for today. And the processes you model today are probably not the best for in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So you have to be able to modify them. And the simpler your tool landscape, the simpler your organization, the easier it is to change. This is also the whole idea behind, for example, user stories. You don't write a lot because it makes it easier to change and easier to throw it away without crying over the, days you wasted writing that beautiful user story. This is also the idea behind the rapid prototyping and building something quickly. You just don't waste as much. It's easy to throw it away or to change it. If you've invested 2 years in building a product and then your customer tells you, well, that's not quite it, you will have a hard time just saying, oh, okay, we just have to change it. But if you've been working on that for 2 weeks, and then you'd show it to the customer, or for a day, or for the last half hour, and you show it to them, and they say, oh, no, not quite. Then you say, thank you. Well, then let's modify it, and in half an hour, I'll show you the next version. So this is the whole idea of agility. Keep it simple to stay nimble and adaptable and agile. This is where the word comes from. And when I think about that, it's actually, we should try to tackle complex problems with simplicity, with simple solutions more. Be it that we reduce the tool landscape to just maybe a messenger plus AI. Maybe that we reduce middle management and all the little decisions, all the little kind of synchronizations that are always needed, and just reduce it to, this is something that can frankly be automated. This is just routine work. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I know that many middle managers are doing a great job. And they will still be needed. They will still be needed to do a great job. But they would do different things. Because this knowing which information is where, crunching numbers, trying to figure out who works on which team best. This is just best done by a software system, a software system plus the people themselves deciding based on the data they have. And that's it. So you can focus on the real work. Simple solutions for complex problems. And that's not to say simplistic solutions. It's not about like saying, oh, I have that solution, that magic wand that fixes everything. No, it's about thinking long and hard. How can we reduce that? Not having 50 KPIs, but reducing it to 1 or 2 or 3. Product managers sometimes talk about the North Star metric. North Star metric means you have one metric which guides everything. And if you have that one metric, it makes things so much simpler. Think about one team aligning with another. In which direction, what do we do first? What do we prioritize? They look at the North Star metric and just see what impacts it the most. People just coming up with feature ideas. Yes, you can generate feature ideas all day long, but how do they add to the bottom line of the company? How do they add value for the customers and the business? Well, if you have that North Star metric, then you just look at that. And then you ask yourself, you might not even need a backlog anymore. You just sit there in maybe a sprint planning, and then you look at that North Star metric and you just think about what's the best thing we could do now to improve that metric. And this is essentially what Tesla engineers do when they enter the factory in the morning. They look at the metric and say, how can we improve that today? And they have the expertise to do that. I lean towards the simple solutions. I know it's harder to have the simple solutions. We all know that saying also about the length of an email, where you just close the long email with, sorry for writing a long email, I didn't have time to make it shorter. So most people, it takes more time and effort to write a short email than a long email. And takes more effort to come up with simpler solutions instead of just slapping on complex solutions and a jungle of tools onto your company. But it seems to be worth it because it keeps you nimble and agile. It might not help you in the short term, in the very short term, but it helps you in the long term because it's easier to adapt. And then there's another thing that for me is connected to that topic. And I said initially that I read that Harvard Business School article, Harvard Business Review article, about friction. And that friction is not always bad. And I can totally empathize with that. And I also see that it goes against the gut feeling of many managers. Because I work a lot with engineering companies. I also work with like marketing and financial, but right now it's a lot of engineers, okay? And in that case, there is almost a reflexive draw towards efficiency. They want to make everything efficient. And that can be a fallacy because premature optimization, local optimum versus global optimum, systems thinking, all that. So it's difficult. I think Elon Musk has that list where he says, okay, all engineers try to optimize something, automate it, and optimize the process before they even start to think whether it's worth doing in the first place. Like whether they could totally eliminate that step or eliminate a part in a product before you think about how you could automate and optimize it. And that's certainly what I see. They want to have efficiency. They try to pack as much into their time as possible. So this is also where people work on 5 projects at the same time and kind of like have no time in between because they are maximally utilized. It's most efficient, they think. They haven't heard about theory of constraints or lean thinking. Of course, it's not efficient, but they think it's efficient. It seems efficient. And also, when they they try to remove friction. When they see that something is tedious to do, they want to remove the friction. And that's essentially good. That's what we do in lean production. We look for the bottlenecks and then we eliminate the bottleneck, and then there's the next bottleneck and we eliminate that, and there can never be no bottleneck. Like this, we always jump to the next one. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But there are times in which friction, or it's good to add extra friction. And the examples they mentioned was adding friction. For example, there was the interview process at Google. That's what they mentioned. And from the early days of Google, they had a rule that they kind of did many interviews with the candidates. They wanted to really get to know people and make sure they have the right people. So they had like 20 interactions or 20 interviews, not formal interviews, I guess, but like just 2 or more people talking. And that might have worked well when they were like 100 people. But now with the scale that Google has, it's just adding a lot of friction. Or it's adding, or let's not call it friction, it's just costing a lot of time. The candidates as well as the people who have to talk to them from the company side. And in that case, basically, what they did is they added friction. They said, if you have done 4 interviews and you want to do more, you can do that. But you have to ask permission from the HR boss. You have to request permission. So this is kind of a speed bump. This is adding artificial friction. And in that case, it makes things better. It helps. Yes, it would be easier and more self-managing if you allowed people to have as many interviews as they see fit. But in that case, adding a little friction actually helped. It helped a lot. Because before that, as they reported, I haven't worked with Google on that. As they reported, was that candidates were so frustrated with the long hiring process that most of them actually went to Facebook. Like Facebook was the darling back then. So adding a little speed bump, adding a little deliberate friction was actually good. Another example where I think we fall into the trap of removing friction all the time is with Scrum Masters. Scrum Masters, let me see here. Scrum Masters sometimes see themselves as the friction removers. Like you grease the system. You help the rest of the team to be efficient and to just work. You kind of and that's true. Scrum Masters try to remove impediments. And that's generally a good thing. But it can also be less desirable. Sometimes it's good to add friction or to leave some friction in the system. One general case is obviously if the Scrum Masters, and I see that very often, sadly, that the Scrum Masters do everything that they do all the little things in between that would get in the way of the rest of the team working. Like admin work, like, oh, could you do that in Jira, please, now? Could you fix that? Or could you go talk to that person? Or they do all of that. Or put the meetings on the calendar. That's a typical thing that they think would be a Scrum Master job. It's not. I mean, it can be, but this is not the primary thing. And the problem is the Scrum Masters kind of burn out because they do so much in the background. And the team becomes a little more efficient and hopefully effective, but it's just a tiny bit. It's not the big numbers that the Agile coaches promised. And the obvious reason here is if you give a person a fish, she can eat for a day. If you teach a person how to fish, she can eat for the rest of her life. So with Scrum Masters, it is, you don't do everything for the team. You teach the team, you coach the team to do it on their own. That is it. When we go back to Tesla, for example, when they redesign a part to make it, cost 2 cents less. At the same time, in parallel, one person or two people from that team, like just a part of the team, design the production process for that new part. And when that part is changed again, 3 hours later, the production process has to change again. It's constantly redesigned. And the engineers I know would now, their heads would explode. They would say, this is so inefficient. It is not. Because the person building the automation for the production of the part learns how to better and faster build production systems. They learn the quirks. They learn the quirks of the machines they use, the robots and all the parts. There's the saying that the Tesla engineers know the robots and the machines better than the manufacturers of the machines themselves, because they are constantly using them and learning. And this makes them so insanely fast and agile. And the same goes for Scrum Masters. Let the team learn it on their own. Yes, when they have to do their first daily stand-up on their own without someone moderating it, it might cause friction. It might be slower and not seem as wonderful and as effective. And that's okay. The next time they will be a little better. Then they will be a little better. And of course you can coach them. You can help them. You should. And after not so much time, it will be effortless. They will not even have to think about that. It will just be effortless. No Scrum Master needed anymore. Of course, Scrum Master is always welcome, but not as a moderator anymore. As leading that or reminding people to now is time for the stand-up. So Scrum Masters help people to do it on their own. And yes, this introduces friction, but that's deliberate friction, though, that they can learn. Another part where we introduce friction, especially with Scrum, is with the sprint time box. We have a sprint of a week or 2 weeks, Yes, that's arbitrary. And yes, the engineers complain, oh, our work doesn't fit a week or 2 weeks. Yes, this is deliberate addition of friction so that you can learn quickly. And it helps you to be even faster, more efficient, more effective afterwards. Maybe final example from a different industry where friction actually helps. And this is an industry that I'm not very familiar with, so please pardon me if I don't know every detail intimately. This is football, or soccer, as the people in the US say. Football. So there, as a coach, we have coaches there as well. They coach teams, and they have a playing field, like a rectangular playing field. And there is a story that I like from one coach from a German football team, and he talks about how his team was always playing the passing the ball down the lines, the long lines of the field, trying to rush to the opponent's half and then kind of pass the ball in and then score a goal. So they were always using that. It was kind of a habit. And that's not unlike the habits that businesses have in teams, where people just do it the way they learned it and they've always done it. They don't even think about it, that there could be a different way. And what this coach wanted to do, he wanted to help them get out of this rut, which was not as effective as it should have been with the competition. He wanted them to play diagonally, so not along the line and then passing in, but diagonal passes, okay, towards the middle and out. And it was difficult because the players had these habits. They could do that for a few minutes, but then, especially in the heat of a real match, they would just fall back into the old rut and just do the along the lines, passing along the lines. And they might shoot a pass, and then right after the ball left their foot, they say, "Oh yes, I know that was wrong." Again. So it's not motivating. You just have to blame yourself. Others might blame you. Oh no, not again. We said we want diagonally. And the coach has to jump in. If it's a training, then the coach would jump in and would say, no, not that way. Stop, go back again, try that again. Try to form that new habit of diagonally passing the ball. Which, is quickly taxing for motivation. Like, the coach is now the person always saying, no, you're not allowed to do that. Yeah, maybe Agile coaches know that. So that teams always, or some teams perceive us as the naysayers. We don't allow them to do certain things. We force them to work in sprints, and we force them to put everything in user stories that can be done in 2 days, and all this restrictions, all that friction they are adding. And what that football coach did, he did a great thing that also many good Agile coaches do. He wanted a different behavior. But instead of telling the players what he wanted and trying to tell them when they show the old behavior and always be the bad person, the negative person, what he did is he changed the environment. He introduced friction in the environment. He limited the playing field. As soccer playing field, like so many sports, it's just rectangular. And what he did is he made it a diamond shape. So he just basically cut off the corners of the playing field. So it was a diamond shape. That's it. And then he let the players play in that diamond shape every training. So what did the players do? They had to play diagonally. The environment that the coach built forces that now. The nice thing about this approach, introducing that friction, I mean, he artificially made the playing field, he restricted the playing field. So, yes, the players could have said, whoa, but if we would have more room, then we could play better and more efficiently. Yes, maybe. But to become more efficient and effective, to learn new habits, now it's good to restrict your playing field, to add friction. And the players, obviously, on that diamond shape, you have to do a lot of diagonal passing. You cannot play straight along the lines. It doesn't work. So you have to play diagonally. And now, the players could blame the layout of the field. It wasn't that you shot a wrong pass anymore. It was just that you shot it outside of the field. And that's okay. That happens all the time when you're playing. And the coach, which would be the Scrum Master or Agile coach in a company context, the coach was not the negative person anymore, saying, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. The coach now could use all his energy to positively help the team succeed within these new constraints. So he helped them. He said, oh, yeah, you can, so that the ball doesn't go out, you can do that, or you can pass like this and try this. He could help them and support them, which is much more motivating and which, in the end, in that case, led to different behavior. They actually learned to do this diagonal passing. And then in the actual matches, obviously, they had the rectangular field again, but in their habits, they still were playing on the diamond. And yeah, needless to say, that team went from being pretty bad to very good. I don't know if they actually that was the time that they won a few of the championships. So adding friction, restricting the team, can sometimes be a positive thing. It makes it more inefficient, seemingly, but it helps to be more efficient in the long term. And also, Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, please don't fix everything. Don't remove every impediment. Yes, it's your job that impediments are removed, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it on your own all the time. Most of the time, the impediments, someone else will fix the impediments. The job of a Scrum Master is just to remind people that they are there, to kind of tell them over and over again, there's a problem, there's one, you should find a solution for that. And this helps Scrum Masters not to burn out. This helps to, learn the team how to fish instead of just eating the fish that the Scrum Master brings. And for me, this is connected to the complexity versus simplicity topic, how I titled this live stream, and it's connected to to how we could solve these problems better, and how introducing friction actually can be beneficial in some cases. Okay, so that was a slightly different live stream. I didn't try to kind of talk about an article that I wrote on the Agile Compass. Oh, and by the way, the Agile Compass free newsletter. The next article will go out tomorrow, if you're interested in that. But this time, I just took the time to kind of talk about my ideas, the ideas that were going round in my head with the experience I had with many companies and organizations, combined with what I read in that Harvard Business Review article. So I hope that it wasn't too unstructured. I hope that you got some value out of this, that you get some maybe thoughts and maybe also some tips. Like, yeah, please, Scrum Masters, don't remove all the impediments. That's not the job. That would be a misunderstanding of the job. And then let me quickly check what will go out tomorrow as the new article. The article on the Agile Compass tomorrow will be on the newsletter that goes out tomorrow will be about writing user stories or not. Like, is writing user stories, are user stories about writing or not? And how to use them effectively. So if you're interested in that or more topics on the Agile Compass, then just sign up for free. Always reply to the emails. When you get an email from me, you can always reply. I read all of them and I make an effort to reply to all of them. Sometimes they go to a different folder and it takes time. Sometimes I get too much. But rest assured, I read all your replies and I reply generally to all of them. Most of them. I try to. So, thank you for watching, for listening again. And please send me your thoughts on the topic, especially on the topic of simplicity versus complexity in an Agile setting. Also on the topic of friction, positive friction, and the negative friction that we all want to remove. And also on your experiences, especially with businesses, with large organizations, with small organizations. I've also had a few startups and worked with startups. Sometimes it's not such a different world. It's sometimes pretty similar. Let me know your experiences and then see you next time in the next live stream here, or maybe even when the email goes out tomorrow. Then if you sign up today for the Agile Compass, you get the email tomorrow automatically on writing user stories. Thank you. Have a great day.